Think about the last thing you ate, or even just the air you're breathing right now. It's just teeming with this incredible, invisible world of life. And this world, it shapes literally everything from our health to the entire planet. So today, we're going to dive right into the world of microorganisms and see how they can be both our friends and our foes.
Okay, I'm sure you've seen this, right? You forget about a slice of bread for a few days and boom, you find these grayish, kind of white patches all over it. Well, that's not just your bread going bad. It's actually a doorway, a peek into this hidden universe of tiny living things that are hiding in plain sight all around us.
So, what are these things? Well, they're called microorganisms, or microbes for short. And when we say small, we mean really small. You need a microscope to see them. But here's the wild part. They are everywhere. And I mean everywhere. From freezing cold polar ice caps to bubbling hot springs, in the driest deserts, the wettest marshes, and even right inside our own bodies.
Okay, so to make sense of this whole microverse, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll meet the main players. Then, we'll look at the good guys and the bad guys, the helpful microbes and the harmful ones. And finally, we'll talk about how we manage living with them. All right, let's dive in. Time to meet the cast of characters in this microscopic drama. We've got 4 major groups of microorganisms to talk about, plus one really mysterious outlier that, well, it just doesn't play by the same rules as the others. First up, we have bacteria. These are single-celled powerhouses. You could call them the workhorses of the microbial world. Now, sure, some of them have a bad rap for causing nasty diseases like typhoid and tuberculosis, but the truth is, the vast majority are absolutely essential for life as we know it.
Next on the list are fungi. And this group includes everything from that mold we saw in the bread earlier to the yeast that makes bread rise in the first place. They can be single-celled or they can be multicellular. And they're major players in, well, both spoiling our food and creating some incredible life-saving medicines.
Then you've got the protozoa. Now, most of these guys are harmless, just minding their own business. But a few of them, well, they're pretty notorious villains in our story. They're responsible for some really serious diseases like dysentery and malaria that, unfortunately, affect millions of people all over the world. And rounding out our main 4, we have algae. You might think of them as just pond scum, but they range from single cells all the way up to those massive underwater kelp forests. They are the absolute foundation of aquatic ecosystems, and get this, they produce a huge amount of the oxygen that we all breathe. Okay, so what about that outlier I mentioned? Well, that would be viruses. They're microscopic for sure, but they're different. They aren't really cells. You can think of them as these tiny biological agents that are totally helpless on their own. They have to get inside a host cell, like a bacterium, a plant, or one of our cells, to reproduce. And yeah, they're the culprits behind everything from the common cold to serious stuff like polio.
Okay, so now that we've met the whole lineup, let's switch gears and focus on the good guys. Because honestly, for every one harmful microbe out there, there are thousands, maybe millions, that are our vital partners in daily life. Let's start with something you might have had for breakfast: curd or yogurt. How's that made? Well, it's all thanks to a friendly bacterium called lactobacillus. You just add a little bit to some warm milk and it gets to work, multiplying and turning that milk into curd. It's a perfect everyday example of microbes working for us right in our own kitchens. And hey, let's talk about another kitchen miracle, this time from yeast. You know that fluffy bread or that amazing cake you love? Yep, you can thank this tiny fungus. When you mix it into dough, it starts reproducing like crazy and releases carbon dioxide. All those tiny gas bubbles get trapped in the dough, making it puff up and rise. It's literally the foundation of the entire baking industry. Learning how to harness the power of these tiny things has led to some of the biggest breakthroughs in human history. Think about it. Jenner figuring out vaccines, using one microbe to fight a scarier one. Or Louis Pasteur finally understanding fermentation. And then there's Alexander Fleming's famous accidental discovery of penicillin from a bit of mold. These weren't just small steps. These moments completely changed the world.
And that discovery of penicillin leads us to one of the most brilliant ideas in all of medicine: antibiotics. What's so amazing is that we're basically using a microbe's own defense system against other, more harmful microbes. It's literally microbe on microbe warfare, and we're the ones who benefit.
But this comes with a really important warning. Antibiotics are miracle drugs, no doubt, but we have to use them responsibly. That means only taking them when a doctor says so and always finishing the full course. Why? Because if we don't, we're basically training bacteria to become superbugs, germs that our best medicines can no longer kill. And that's a massive threat to all of us.
And the list of good things they do just keeps going. I mean, they're nature's ultimate cleanup crew, breaking down all the organic waste. They do this incredible thing where they pull nitrogen right out of the air and put it into the soil, which makes it fertile for plants to grow. And of course, where would we be without them for making things like cheese, pickles, wine, and vinegar? They're just essential.
So, we've spent a lot of time celebrating our microbial friends. But now, it's time to face the foes. Let's turn our attention to the darker side of this unseen world, the pathogens that make us sick.
The official name for these bad guys is pathogens. And these are the microorganisms that can get into our bodies, whether it's through the air, the water, or our food, and cause disease. So how do these tiny invaders get around? Well, sometimes it's a direct attack, right? An infected person sneezes and suddenly thousands of virus particles are flying through the air. But other times, they use a getaway driver, what we call a carrier. Think of a housefly landing on some garbage and then on your food. Or a mosquito, which acts like a tiny flying needle delivering malaria from one person to the next. Yeah, this is kind of like a most wanted poster for the microbial world. You can see how different microbes have their own favorite ways of spreading. So you've got tuberculosis, a bacterium that travels through the air. Then there's cholera, another bacterium, but it spreads through contaminated food and water. Malaria, which we just mentioned, is caused by a protozoan and needs a mosquito to get around. And then something like chickenpox, a virus, can spread through the air or through direct contact. So what's the big takeaway here? It's that we're living in this world that's just jam-packed with both friends and foes. The real key to a healthy life is learning how to manage this microverse. Encourage the good guys while keeping the bad guys at bay. And over the years, we've come up with some really clever ways to do just that, especially when it comes to our food. Think about it. We add salt, sugar, or vinegar to things to preserve them, because most harmful microbes just can't grow in those conditions. We use extreme temperatures, right? Boiling milk to kill germs, or sticking food in the fridge to slow them down. And then there's pasteurization, that whole rapid heating and cooling trick. All of this, plus things like airtight packaging, it's all about one thing: stopping the bad microbes. But maybe our most powerful weapon against pathogens is the vaccine. It's such a brilliant idea. Here's how it works. Scientists take a dead or super weakened version of a pathogen and introduce it into your body. Now, it's too weak to actually make you sick, but it's just enough for your immune system to go, whoa, what's this? And learn how to fight it by creating antibodies. It's like a training session for your body. So if the real dangerous version ever shows up, your body already has a game plan and is ready to go. So when you boil it all down, we're left with this incredible, delicate balance, aren't we? Microbes are our partners and our opponents. They are the creators of so much of our world, and at the same time, the carriers of disease. Learning about this invisible world, well, it's way more than just a science lesson. It's fundamental to our health, our food, our planet, our survival. So the big question for all of us is, how can we get better at managing this relationship? How can we tip the scales in our favor for a healthier future?